Go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, thanks for stopping by the channel today, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. For those of you that don't know or are just figuring out where you are, I'm TC. This is my channel. And this is not a regularly scheduled show today. I ran across an individual here in the state of Minnesota that is challenging Ilhan Omar for the Senate or congressional district up there, trying to unseat her in the DFL primary. And this individual is not your quintessential Minnesota DFLer. AJ is a grassroots traditionalist, and she's tired of Ilhan kind of running roughshod over the people of Minnesota, and so she's giving it a shot to see what she can do. And I'm pulling for her. The DFL basically has all sorts of representatives in the Minnesota GOP, so I figure why not have some grassroots traditionalist type conservatives go over to the DFL and do what they can over there. So if you're just tuning in, make sure that you are liking, commenting, and sharing. That all helps with the algorithm. If you're watching, you have a question, feel free to go ahead and ask. If you watch this afterwards and you would like to see a question answered, feel free to message it here. You can do something like a super thanks. That'll get my attention. I'll see it faster. Sometimes I don't see the comments when they come in afterwards. Coffee, always available. Make sure you're checking out coffee. You can order it from me, tcpearson at protonmail.com. We got merchandise. I'd also like to thank Arden Sales Group for stepping in and becoming a sponsor of sorts to the show. They're helping me keep things going here. We're fighting to take back the conservative values of the average Minnesotan, and we're looking for a place where we can see that represented. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring AJ in and say thank you. Thanks for doing this, AJ. I appreciate it.
Hey, happy to be here.
Well, you say that now. Let's see how this goes. So you put a video out the other day explaining that you are a conservative running for the DFL endorsement in the primary.
That's correct. We have a ton of rhinos. Why not have conservatives run in Democrat primaries?
Yeah, that is a very interesting. How should I say it? It's an interesting concept. It's almost foreign to me to hear that, but strangely enough, I'm convinced that the DFL is sending their less whack out leftist over to the Republican Party to work as spoilers. So I'm like, hey, let's get behind AJ here. So you've had have lived in Minnesota since 2003, you said.
Yes, we moved to Minnesota 2003, and yeah.
And of course, you moved here because Minnesota was just a stubborn red state, and you liked that. And no?
Yeah, we came to Minnesota mostly because of our business. My husband was flying to the East Coast and the West Coast, and Minnesota was centrally located, so it made sense.
And your eyes got open real quick when you got here.
Pretty quickly, yes.
Now, obviously, Ilhan was not anywhere near a congressional office at that time, but you happened to watch her explosion onto the scene, and you started to have a lot of questions about Ilhan and her legitimacy as a candidate. probably from our conversation the other day, probably well before she started to show just how far whacked out to the left she is, you had these questions going into it, and now those questions are incredibly important because you're finding that she may not even be legitimately able to hold office in the state of Minnesota.
Right. So no one in any official capacity has ever verified her citizenship because the Secretary of State's office does not require it. They simply have adopted a don't ask, don't tell policy. And she signs the affidavit of candidacy, and you just take her at her word. And I think this is a way for the Democrat-ran states to basically make parts of the Constitution null and void that may perhaps don't work for them. And it's very frustrating that the Republicans they're not paying attention to it. And even if they were, they don't want to jeopardize their career and go after something like this. But this is where we're at, in that everyone who is elected takes an oath of office to defend the Constitution, and they're not doing it. And it's just about impossible for American citizens to verify that the Constitution is in fact being followed. And so this is a situation with Ilhan Omar. I happened to notice that her birth year was 1981 on her state legislative page and on credible news articles and interviews. In fact, the Star Tribune had a piece when she won her 2018 August primary, when she was first working to go to Congress. And so she was 36 in that article in August 2018. Then you go August, September, October 4th, she turns 37. So 37, she goes January 2019 into Congress. That means that she was born 1981. Now, the problem with that is if you do a little math or use an age calculator, her father became eligible to apply for naturalization in the year 2000. And if she was born in 1981, then she was already 18 years old. And the interesting thing that people should understand is that I think there's enough doubt that the members of Congress should take this issue up and take a serious look at it and demand her official naturalization record, because nearly 6 months into her first term in Congress, she contacted the state. It was about May 17th. She contacted the state and she changed her birth year from 1981 to 1982. And she changed this where she could change it: her state biographical page, her U.S. congressional page, and Wikipedia. Isn't that a big red flag? Why would you bother doing that? Well, see, a couple of days earlier.
It makes her a year younger.
Yes, yes. But a couple of days before she did this, I had published a video going through the steps for where someone who is foreign born would be eligible to derive citizenship through their parent who naturalized. Well, she didn't meet any of it in the end because she was not a minor. And rather than say, look, here to the world, here's my official naturalization record, okay, put it to rest. No, she goes the effort to change her birth year wherever she could. And so then that led me to go to the Secretary of State's office in Minnesota and say, I want to verify that she's a citizen, that she meets all three of the constitutional qualifiers, which is you have to be 25, or over, at least 25 years of age, 7 years a citizen, and then if you win the seat, you have to live in the state. So what I found out, which the people can see the video, because my friend came and took a video while we made this visit. It's on ajkern.com. You can see the video. But what we found is that the Secretary of State does not verify that you're actually qualified to run. They don't require proof of citizenship. And this is also true for the foreign-born registering to vote. So we know that they're giving out driver's license, and then typically when you get a driver's license, you also register to vote. And so this is aiding, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I'm not an attorney, but I believe this is how they aid the foreign-born in registering to vote. And so I have a civil complaint that includes Ilhan Omar and the other candidate, Don Samuels, because he has nothing on his website that says, this was the date that I became a citizen. He was born and raised in Jamaica. So I included him, and I also included the Minnesota Secretary of State, because I want the court to say that you are the gatekeeper. Now, the reason why I decided to run, because I feel so strongly about not only the Democrats who have embraced communism now, but also the establishment Republicans who are sitting on the sidelines doing nothing while our Constitution is being shredded.
Right.
And if we don't do everything we can to save every word, every sentence in that Constitution, we're going to lose our God-given rights. So this is not a small thing. And so I decided, even though I'm busy, I have a life, this isn't a convenient thing for me to do. But if you look at the founding fathers, it wasn't convenient for them either.
Yeah,
during that time.
there was a little bit of inconvenience and discomfort in rebelling against the crown at the time,
Exactly.
like death.
So, and the odds were against them, right? They were going against the largest military in the world at the time. So I decided, because my understanding was a political challenger has standing with the court to say, to make a request. I want you to verify that they may legitimately have their names on the ballot. Now, that may or may not work, but my thinking was, if I run as a Republican, a judge could immediately dismiss it and say, well, unless you're endorsed, what's the point? So running directly in the Democrat primary, which I also thought, we have so many who call themselves Republicans, but they don't have a strong record voting in support of the Constitution. And so I thought, why not play their game? Why not just be directly a challenge in the primary, which, my case has been accepted. A judge has been assigned, and I actually have my first hearing because Keith Ellison and his attorneys filed a motion for dismissal. They want to be taken out of the case. Of course they do.
Say that again. Really? What a shock.
Yeah, right. So anyone can watch
he's too
this.
busy. Keith Ellison's too busy going after people like Lisa Hanson and Larvina McFarquhar to actually deal with what could possibly be potential crime. So before you go any further, I'm going to throw this out here because people are going to say, okay, you sound like a tinfoil hat wearing Alex Jones wannabe birther conspiracy advocate, and because we've been told anytime you challenge somebody's credentials, especially when they're on the left, you're a conspiracy nut. So these questions that you're asking are legitimate. She's not American in the sense of she wasn't born here. She might have been raised here to a degree, but she's not an American. She was born in Somalia. That doesn't preclude her from running for office, but it does mean that she has to abide by the same laws that everybody else has to abide by. So if there's fraud in this situation, if there's questions about her age, which could lead then to questions about naturalization, and she's not a U.S. citizen and she's running for office and she's elected, we're talking about federal level felonious crimes here. Like that's literally like one of the things that the Constitution talks about are like high crimes and misdemeanors, kind of paving the way towards treasonous activity. This isn't just a tiny question. This is massive. And if you're proven to be accurate in your assessment, this blows the lid off of a lot of stuff. It's not just you being bitter. It's like this literally blows the lid off of a lot of stuff. It has the potential to take down a lot of people, and it could crumble the DFL for a while.
I'm not going to hold my breath.
Well,
I think the odds are against
I'm
me, and I think that we've
trying to drive
gotten
up views, AJ.
we have we've gotten to a point where we actually have an American cartel, in my opinion, and we have a swamp, as we call them in DC. The politicians are not there to serve us as public servants. I think that's pretty clear. But I will say I'm not really confident that what I'm doing here. I'm not confident in the sense that I'm not sure that the courts are the right place to address this, but I don't have confidence in the Congress either. The more that I've dug into this, I think that this should be handled by the Congress. The Republicans in the Minnesota GOP should actually be the ones taking the lead on this, going to the U.S. House Elections Committee, Administrations Committee, to the House Ethics Committee. They should be talking to other members of Congress and saying, there's enough reason to believe that we have a problem here. I mean, I would wager to bet that there is no other member of Congress who has ever changed their birth year into their first term. Why would she do that? And I believe that naturalization records, for this reason, when you make a choice to throw your hat into a federal election where the Constitution says that you have to be 7 years a citizen or 9 years a citizen for the Senate, I think those naturalization records should become public data. They're not right now. The Congress, in their wisdom way back, decided that naturalization records are not public data, but they should be, so that the American people should always be able to confirm that the Constitution is being respected. And we don't have that at this point. So you tell me why the establishment controlling the Republican Party in Minnesota are not understanding that the day that I went to the Secretary of State's office and they saw my video, I'm sure they did, and saw that the Secretary of State was saying, what the woman said was, we do not verify the citizenship of the foreign-born because there is no law. In fact, if we did require proof of citizenship, we would be in violation of the law. Hey, how about if the Republicans in the state legislature pay attention to that and address it? What do you need to do to ensure that state statutes are complying with federal law and complying with the Constitution? It's an embarrassment that Minnesota would ever put up a member of Congress who, if the Administration Committee, Ethics Committee, if in Congress, if they ever actually said, there's reason to believe that she may not be a citizen, and they removed her, let's just say in some dreamland that happens, that's an embarrassment. And it as we have more and more foreign-born coming into this country, this is going to be a serious issue. And I want people to understand that when someone runs for local office, your city council, your school board, mayor, there is no requirement for them to be a citizen. So you should, if someone's foreign-born, and you care about that, maybe you should be paying attention, doing your due diligence to do your research, because do you really want someone who's foreign-born coming into this country and governing or affecting our laws or uh, at any level, as far as I'm concerned. Um, so I wanted to point out that one of the things I included in my memorandum in my civil suit was a quote by Hamilton, and he stated that the qualifications of the person who may be chosen are defined and fixed in the Constitution and are unalterable by the legislature. Okay,
Yeah,
they're in
I think that's
concrete. It's
very
black
that
and
yeah,
white.
exactly. That's very important. And so when you were saying, you're having a conversation with a clerk at the Secretary of State's office, and she's like, "Well, if we did that, it would be in a violation of the law." I'm like, "No, your law is a violation of the supreme law of the land. You cannot write a law that circumvents the constitutional requirements that are put in place." And yet I'm like, well, okay, let's just be honest. This fight should have started a long time ago because we see it constantly. Marbury versus Madison. I mean, going back that far, any law that is repugnant to the Constitution is no law. Well, if Minnesota State doesn't require you to prove your citizenship and then says it's against the law to ask for that, that's a joke, because the Constitution is very clear. You must be a citizen. And if you must be a citizen, then there needs to be a means to test that, to prove it. And I don't care what anybody in the state says. I guarantee you right now, if some guy who pretended to be a conservative happened to be foreign-born Russian, wanted to run for office, they'd be all over that. And with all the Russian hate in this country right now, they'd be all over that. They'd be doing everything in their power to eliminate that person from running for office, and they'd be looking for every loophole under the sun to do it. And they wouldn't care about whether or not it was violating his civil rights. They'd find the loopholes. They'd force the issue. But here we sit. She's a darling of the left, and she's not afraid to say that she wants to tear this republic down. She's said it in different ways over and over and over again, that she wants to tear the American republic down. And here, lo and behold, nobody wants to touch this issue.
Yeah, I have another quote here. It was when the founders were debating about what the requirements are for an individual running for House, and their concern, it was they feared that foreigners would, that they would bring with them not only attachments to other countries, but ideas of government so distinct from ours that in every point of view, they are dangerous. She's openly stated that she wants to reimagine the police, or she wants to deconstruct what we have. But we could also get into more about her background and Islam. She was raised a Marxist. Her father was a Marxist. Her grandfather, they were officers in the Mohammed Bari Marxist regime. It begs the question, how did they get here? And what we know is that a lot of the officers from that Marxist regime made it to Europe, the United States, and Canada. And again, I think our government is clearly corrupt. I think they're violating legal definitions. For example, I mean, I'm not sure if we should start moving in this direction before I'm done explaining why I'm running. But the thing is that who invaded Somalia? Nobody.
Yeah, no, right.
And so
it just fell apart on its own, and then we decided it was our job to go fix it.
So it was a clan war, civil war, and I'm not sure there are good guys. But the Ilhan Omar's father, involved in the Mohammed Bari Marxist regime, they are guilty of torturing and murdering many people. Now, both sides probably did this, right, in the conflict, right. But they didn't flee because of their race or the religion, okay? Right. And many of them, as we know, go back for visits. So that's a whole different issue. But the point is that where she comes from, she was not born into poverty. She was born into wealth because, for instance, she lived in a compound, she was protected, they were able to get out of there when the regime fell. She's not a poor little refugee girl,
Right.
as she tries to portray. And so she has this Marxist, clearly Marxist philosophy that I said in the video you watched that, President John F. Kennedy was the face of the Democrat Party for a very long time. And that is not the party today. Just like the
Yeah.
Republican Party isn't the party of Ronald Reagan, the party of the Democrats have fully embraced communism. And as I said, President Kennedy would not welcome in and embrace socialist Bernie Sanders or Marxist Ilhan Omar. To say that he opposed communism is an understatement. We had the Bay of Pigs. I mean, he opposed communism in the strongest terms. And today, the Democrats are embracing communism. And so that's another reason I thought this is an opportunity to point out to the people in the 5th District, make sure that that's what you want, because the elites, the communists, they want globalism. And we know that eventually, based on the book of Revelation, that some bad things are going to happen eventually. But in the meantime, we have to, as believers in Christ, we have to continue to fight the good fight and speak righteously and do all that we can to stand up for this country. And right now, the Republican Party is betraying us. And not just on the federal level, but on the state level. Let's just say the Muslim Brotherhood Terrorist Designation Act. See, that began with Michelle Bachmann, but yet she endorses Tom Emmer, who doesn't. He opposes that. He never supported it. And so I'm not sure how much you know, but at some point, because I was writing, I had a column once a month for the St. Cloud Times. I would write and explain to people how refugee resettlement worked. And at some point, my face got on the front page of a report of the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE, which is Council on American Islamic Relations, Hamas, with my eyes blacked out. Now, I didn't see anyone, any political figure, no one stood up and said, this is wrong. We should not allow people to come into this country and target Americans who may be providing information on Islam or the Muslim or terrorist organizations or refugee resettlement, whatever it is that they disagree with. You shouldn't have a right to come in and try to intimidate, because that's what it was. It was trying to be an intimidation tactic, and they want you to be scared. And that's right. I don't see any Republicans speaking up against that, and they need to pass the Muslim Brotherhood Terrorist Designation Act.
I mentioned this while on the phone with you the other day. The mainstream media, even people in the legacy media who maybe see that this might be a story worth reporting on, aren't going to report on it, because to do so is to be labeled, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a misogynist, you're an alt-right, you're a white nationalist, or whatever the case might be. If you cover a story like this, they're going to destroy your career or attempt to destroy your career. And that's why moderate Republicans don't speak out on things like this, and they join in with the throngs of the left who are calling people extremists. The moderate Republicans, especially in the state of Minnesota, have no problem then labeling anybody who's asked questions like, oh, so that person doesn't represent this party. That person is, they're an extremist. We don't even want them in the party. If we could, we'd kick them out, and yada, yada, yada. And that may not be that, the level of threat that you might see if you publish a picture of Mohammed in a French magazine and then see an attack arise out of that. But they'll attack one way or another. And they'll get other people to go along, because they're afraid if they don't go along, they're gonna suffer the same kind of treatment. And so they win through, like you said, through the intimidation factor. And being a politician or a statesman requires that you have to put yourself out there and you have to start asking questions, because we are supposed to protect the Constitution. We take an oath, when you run for office and you win, you take an oath to defend it, and that's supposed to mean something. And I want to touch on something else that you were talking about. Like, when you have people who are foreign born, you get two classes of people who are foreign born and come to the United States. You have people who genuinely want to come here and be American, and they come and embrace American values.
Yes.
Because they love American values. America's not perfect. We made mistakes, but they still see the promise of American excellence, and they want to strive for that. And that comes across the board from every nation in the world, every ethnicity. But then you also have another type of foreign born that comes here, which is to live off the system, to milk that system. And they bring their values from their homeland with them, and their worldview with them. And instead of embracing American values, they bring those values that they were born and raised with in to destroy American values. And that's one of the biggest problems I have with Ilhan Omar. She's made it clear she's not going to embrace American values, period. She wants to bring the same kind of wickedness that she embraced via her family when they were in Somalia here.
Absolutely.
And I don't care if you're German or English or Australian or Ukrainian or Russian or Portuguese or whatever. You come here and embrace our values. Doesn't mean you have to be a Republican. Doesn't mean you have to be moderate or even a Democrat. You can be whatever you want, but you embrace our values and you live in our world according to our system, and not expect our system to change to be your system. Because if that's what you wanted, you should have stayed home.
Exactly. What's the point in coming here and bringing with you your same, it's like the people in conservative states. Look, if you're going to move from California or New York, don't come here and bring your politics, because you were trying to escape those politics that were making your city dangerous, your taxes too high. So don't bring that with you to a conservative state. And so it's the same argument, but you look at what she favors. Open borders. She has said she wants to make everyone who comes across they violate our law just by simply stepping over the line, the border, and coming in here. She wants to make them all citizens. Well, does that mean the cartel? Does that mean the gangs? She's not differentiating at all.
That's right.
First of all, I think you broke our laws and you should be sent out. You shouldn't be able to stay. You have to come through legally, come through the door, not over the wall. Okay. Right. And what about, I want the people to ask themselves, how do you benefit from this? If you are an American and you are watching your crime increase in the Democrat-ran cities and states, crime, drugs, your daughters are missing for some people. I mean, that's becoming a real problem in this country, is women and young girls missing. And so you have drug trafficking, human trafficking, sex trafficking, tragedy, human tragedy happening at the border, and then it's infiltrating throughout the states, the entire country, problems that American citizens they're going to suffer from this. We are going to suffer, but the federal government, is their first obligation really is to protect our country, protect our borders. And in my opinion, this is treason, but this is the ideology of the far left in trying to destroy our country, to bring us towards globalism, because the squad members, they think they're part of the elite, and so they're really trying to tear this country down in spite of our Constitution. They take an oath, but it means nothing. And it means nothing for so many who take the oath. And they're not, this oath means nothing to them. And the other thing I believe should be addressed is an amendment to the Constitution that you cannot hold dual citizenship and serve in the Congress or serve in the White House, for instance. I think you have to be fully and only an American citizen.
Right.
And, you know, I think a lot of people don't know that Michelle Bachmann had dual citizenship with Switzerland. I don't care what her excuse is. I just fully believe that if you are serving in the Congress, you shouldn't have dual citizenship. You should have one allegiance. And that's that.
Wait a minute. So the darling of the Minnesota Republican Party, Michelle Bachmann, had dual citizenship with Switzerland?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
What was her reasoning for that?
I think it's, oh, my husband is, you know, his heritage. It had to do with her husband and his heritage. And then I think a reporter was trying to question her about it, and she didn't want to answer.
That's funny. A reporter will ask her about that, but they won't.
They won't ask Ilhan Omar about
Yeah.
her citizenship. But I think that my lawsuit, I do have a hearing on June 23rd. Like I said, Keith Ellison wants the Secretary of State dismissed from my civil complaint. And I want to give the case number because you can watch that hearing live. And it's 27-CV-22-7391.
Hold on a second. We're going to put that in. That's a Zoom hearing?
Yes, you can go to, I think it's mncourts.gov. I've never done this before, okay, and it's just about impossible to do this pro se, but I've never done this before. It's a bit complicated to me. I have to keep a watch daily on what's going on the court's website.
Is that information on your website?
The civil complaint and the memorandum are on ajkern.com where you can read them.
What about so I don't know if you can see it, but I have your website up here.
Yes, I see it. Mm-hmm.
So if people go there, would it be possible for you to put the link to the Zoom hearing?
I'm going to try to provide information. I'm not sure exactly about the link. Maybe I can. I have to update my page with I will put the case number on there and the time.
If you have a link, you should be able to share that link. And
I should be able to. I'm not very techno savvy, but my husband helps me out a lot with that.
That one should be pretty simple because the courts in Minnesota do allow, you know, the average random looky-loo in the state to join in on, or even from around the country actually, to join in on those Zoom hearings. They're just certain things that they're not allowed to do, which, you know, is like comment or anything. They can observe, which is their liberty and a protected right for them.
Right, they should be able to, but I do believe ultimately that the case will be dismissed. Now I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that. And if that happens, I'm going to pursue this and try to contact members of Congress who are on these committees, the election committee, or I think maybe it's called the administrative committee, because I think in this next election, the Republicans should take over the House and the Senate, and the Republicans should be able to look at the evidence that I have. Just the fact that in her first term in Congress, she changed her birth year. She went to the effort to do that. That should raise a red flag. And why doesn't she just simply provide her naturalization record? Because I don't think, of course, I fully believe she never naturalized. And I also want to say that let's just give her the benefit of the doubt. And I said this in my other video that you saw, that let's just say she was 17. She said in an interview that they came here March 8th, 1995. I believe it was an interview. It was called Through Her Eyes. So she said, we came here March 8th, 1995. Refugees have at least, at a minimum, a 5-year waiting period. It's a little bit more complicated than that. I think they're supposed to wait a year for their permanent residency and then be able to have the 5 years and apply for naturalization. But I also, again, our government's corrupt. I'm not sure what kind of deals they did with. We allow the UN to run the refugee program, and then we use non-government organizations that funnel our millions of dollars through Catholic Charities, Lutheran social services, and so we can't track that money. It's not subject to a public data request. But anyway, kind of lost my train of thought there.
That happens frequently on my show. So
yeah, as I'm thinking, I'm trying to inject and remember certain things that I'm saying here.
That's why I do long form stuff and not like here's a list of 10 questions.
Yeah. But I think that the Republicans having the majority should at least consider what I'm bringing to them, that there's enough there with understanding that the Secretary of State is not the gatekeeper, apparently. But no one has verified her citizenship. And so as a challenger, I'm saying I want evidence. I want the proof. And I want the Republicans who are going to have the majority to go to those committee members and say, please take this up. What do I need to submit to you? My evidence, or come testify before your committee. I will do that. And I'm hoping maybe Royce White will. I actually like him over Cicely Davis, but hopefully, I could contact him and he would join me in this effort. Maybe Cicely Davis too, but this is the only way to get to the bottom of it. And every American should stop and say, this is a real problem, because we could have a foreign nationalist in Ilhan Omar. She's on the Foreign Affairs Committee. If she's a foreign nationalist, this is a national security risk. And she's going over and meeting
conflict of interest.
She's meeting with the leadership in Turkey and Pakistan and who knows who else. But she's got ties to individuals.
She blasted one of our, and I don't care, what your geopolitical views are on Israel, and I have Christian friends that are one perspective on it, and Christian friends that are another perspective on it, and non-Christian friends that have a perspective on it. But for all the wrong that you could find with Israel, they're one of our closest allies in the world, especially in the Middle East. And she goes to a foreign country and blasts one of our closest allies and basically says, yeah, we should wipe them off the face. I'm paraphrasing here, people. I'm not accusing her of actually having said this, which basically makes it very clear. Yeah, let's get rid of Israel. They deserve to go. And that, there again, she's freedom to say what she wants to say. She could say what she wants, but we have to start asking questions. Do you represent the United States? Do you represent your district? Do you represent your state? And these things have fingers further than just Minnesota, because she is at the federal level. So this affects every state. So I got my friend Judson watching. He's from way down in the southeast. This kind of stuff affects him. And she's basically they formed their own caucus, her and Rashida Tlaib and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I shouldn't pick on people, but I can't stand AOC either. But they've all formed their own caucus, which is bent towards driving their own party further to the left. They're making policy decisions for the Biden administration. The Green New Deal, that's their brainchild, as much as any of them could actually have a brainchild. That's their brainchild. They that's what they want. I mean, and they're running around acting like representatives of the United States. And the vast majority of people in the country don't like them, but yet they keep getting money and in support and donations, and I don't know. It's got to end. What if the courts rule that you're right and this can go forward? Technically, the Secretary of State does get removed from this because the courts could make the decision and go and circumvent the Secretary of State. Because the Secretary of State can't step in and go, no, the courts don't get to make that decision. This effectively could remove the Secretary of State from making that decision. But there's another group that could step in and do this too, which you've mentioned already. The Minnesota House could step in and make this decision.
Yeah, the Republicans in the Congress should be taking the lead on this. I shouldn't have to do this. They should be taking the lead, and they know the Secretary of State is not verifying the citizenship. And again, where are the Republicans in the state legislature?
Have you taken this to any of the state legislature leaders?
No. I mean,
you wouldn't get anywhere with Kurt down anyway, but
no. I've done the work. I mean, I went to the Secretary of State's office. I've recorded it. It's right there. There's no doubt about it. And what does it take for the Republicans to actually do something? They should be, if it requires passing legislation to say, okay, the Secretary of State has to do his due diligence when someone who's foreign born is registering to vote, that he should say, yeah, I need your naturalization records. I don't see how that's that hard. If the court says we want to actually have everyone provide proof that they're a citizen, I'm more than happy to provide my birth certificate. And by the way, this is not a birther issue. We're not looking for birth certificates in a third world country. Our government either has her naturalization record or they do not. Now she is running again. She must, if she has it, provide it. It's that simple. The American people should have the right to verify that we are still abiding by the Constitution. And those qualifications are black and white. And it should not be this hard. This is a big signal to people across the country that we have a constitutional problem. And we can't, as Americans, we should be able to find out whether it's being held or not. But then, you look at things like the U.S. Department of Education. Why, during Trump's first 2 years in office, the Republicans controlled the House and the Senate. Not only did they not help fund the wall, but they didn't do things like say, the Department of Education should be eliminated. It's not constitutional. And look at the state that our education system is in. It's terrible. It's really terrible.
We just need to spend more money on it. It'll get better.
Oh, right. Yeah, we do that year after year after year. More and more money. That's not the issue. I would love to talk to you about all of my education research. We should be doing what Finland is doing, but I know that's another show. But, my point is that Republicans are not standing guard because they're concerned about their own careers. Tom Emmer is not going to spend time pursuing getting to the bottom of Ilhan Omar's citizenship because he's chair of the National Republican Congressional Committee, which is not really a congressional committee. It's an organization in how the Republicans raise money. And also that's the point where the members of Congress have to go to the NRCC and say, okay, how much money do I have to raise to have this committee seat? Some of them are more valuable than others. And
right.
So then the National Republican Congressional Committee, Tom Emmer, hands them, here's the lobbyist, special interest, the big corporations, give them a call. That's where you get your big money. Because some of them have to pay, hundreds of thousands of dollars, raise money for their seats. That's why they don't work for us. They're not going to take up this issue about protecting and guaranteeing the Constitution as being respected. They have other personal agendas,
People
and
get
it
really bent.
doesn't involve this.
People get really bent out of shape when you talk about the uniparty. Minnesota is notorious for the uniparty right now, but the uniparty is alive and well at the federal level. So much so that you get a person. I know people think that you know Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's like, oh, she's a crackpot. She's like, well, of course she's going to look like a radical, whacked out kook when you compare her to the allegedly mainstream old guard leadership in the Republican Party in Washington, D.C., because she actually says things that she believes and wants to represent her people. And look at, I bring her up in particular is because look at what they did to try and keep her from being able to run for office. They pulled, like, she's never charged with a crime. Accused in the court of public opinion, but never charged, never accused with a crime, never investigated, certainly not convicted. And they tried to have her disqualified from running on a technicality because of January 6th, using a really old law. And other Republicans were okay with that. They were okay with that. Ted Cruz. A lot of Republican, actual conservatives like Ted Cruz. I think Ted's okay. I think he could be a little bit more Ted Cruz-y when he wants to be, but they don't like the mainstream Republican Party doesn't like Ted Cruz, and because he calls out BS when he sees it. Same thing. I know people don't like Rand Paul because he's really a libertarian running as a Republican, but look at what Rand Paul's doing for Republicans. As a libertarian, in the same vein as his father, is doing far more for conservative Republican values than the alleged conservatives within the federal leadership. And I hate that term, but I don't know how else to describe it. But they're all so busy compromising.
Yep.
And they turn around, and who do they go after? They attack the Rand Pauls, just like they attacked Ron Paul. They attacked the Ted Cruzes and the Thomas Masseys and the MTGs and what's her name from Colorado? Is it Bobbitt?
Bobert.
Oh, Bobert. Yeah, like, oh, she had a DUI. I'm like, okay. I would imagine most of the people in Congress and in the House and the Senate in DC probably should have had a DUI at some point.
Tom Emmer had 3, I think.
Yeah. But
so,
but that doesn't matter because he's
Yeah.
he's on the right side of these things. And you
Is
look
he?
at what you know what I'm doing. You look at what they do and the things that they pick at and the straws and the strings that they pull to try and dissuade people from looking at some of the people they don't like as legitimate candidates or legitimate public servants, while turning a blind eye to legitimate problems that are like going on. They attack these people and use technicalities, like Madison, what's his name, the Crawford or whatever, or the weird guy
I think it's Cawthorn. Yeah.
Cawthorn. Like, he lost the primary, and they still went after him with the same post-Civil War law. And I don't like, okay, maybe he's a little strange. I'm not, he's a little bit more weird than I am. But they can't stop trying to destroy him. They just want to keep destroying him. But don't look at Ilhan. Don't look at her. Don't pay any attention to her. Like, just don't, because that could be bad for us. How much pushback have you gotten any? Are the Republicans in the state of Minnesota acting like you don't exist, or have you gotten pushback?
No, they're pretty much acting like I don't exist. But for the people, they should be asking why. If for what I'm doing, wouldn't you think that even if they don't like me personally, or because of the whole battle I had in 2016, especially with Tom Emmer and that whole endorsing fiasco, um, even if they don't like me, wouldn't it be better to say, wow, this is like a first. A conservative has actually filed to run in a Democrat primary. Shouldn't we take advantage of that? Shouldn't we help her get national coverage? And why she's doing it? Why? It's baffling, but the true constitutional conservatives are not in charge of the party. And if you are one, they will do everything they can do to, I mean, I think that the people supporting Emmer had put up a webpage, The Real AJ Kern, and it was a bunch of garbage. So my own party was
So let's
attacking
let's
me.
throw some of their garbage out there. What are some of the things that they accused you of that's demonstrably untrue? Because I had Nate Wiesenberg on last night, and his own Republican Party did the same thing to him on the local level, put out a hate site to discredit him. So, what are the big
Honestly,
guns pulling
I
on you?
didn't look at that site. My husband looked at it, I bet, and he would get upset. But um, you know, the party even went as far as allowing Tom Emmer's people to file. They filed, I think, like 12 federal election complaints against my husband and I. 12. So they weaponized a federal agency to do what? To intimidate us. They had small complaints that we didn't do this right or we didn't do that right and blah 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 blah,
And how
and
many of those did they were they able to prove that you committed out of those 12? I love this story.
they lost all of them. My husband worked on those and he won all of them. All of them. But you didn't hear anything from the GOP leadership.
After they
No.
falsely accused you and you
Right.
won, crickets.
Right. Right.
I need a
Nothing.
sound. I need a soundboard with a cricket sounder on it.
Yeah. So the Republicans aren't necessarily the good guys. If you are a conservative, your main objective is to support the Constitution. They will hate you. They will go after you. Even use weaponizing a federal agency to go after you. More so than they will go after the other side of the aisle.
They would much rather tear down the conservative base in Minnesota before they ever run the risk of violating all of the friendships that they've made on the left-hand side of the aisle.
Yeah. And I wish that Minnesota would change the way it runs its whole political process. I think the endorsing conventions are a disservice. It's an easy way for the establishment to control endorsements because they violate their own rules. But if we had anyone who wants to run for any office, that we have 3 debates and everyone go to a primary, you would probably be more likely to come up with the right person. Because
Set the primary earlier in the year than August.
yes, yes. But this way, you just get a larger number of people, the people of the district or the state, to decide rather than a very small handful who manipulate the process. I mean, just take slates. I think I'm probably the only one that's ever spoke against slates because people, even the people who get involved in the process in their local basic political organization unit, don't really get what the slates do. And I'm against them because I think, okay, I guess first I should just say what slates are, that when you go to the endorsing conventions or the local conventions, when they're picking the delegates and the alternates, the candidates speak, and then they will hand out, this is my slate. It's the name of how many people that they need to be a delegate. for them. And so at these little conventions, I would speak and then I would say, now in a moment, Tom Emmer's people are going to hand out their slate. Those are the people that you should not vote for if you don't support the incumbent, but you support me as a constitutional conservative, because it's the principle of the thing. No one should ever tell you who to vote for. No one, not even in that situation, not
Right.
even at a convention when people, they in 2016 a lot of new people came. They wanted to be involved and they thought, oh, I want to be a delegate for my endorsing convention. My congressional district convention, or I want to go to the state convention. And you know what they learned with these slates is they never had a chance.
Right.
You get up there in front of the convention and you say, I would like to be a delegate because blah, blah, blah. Well, it doesn't matter because once they hand out the slates and they say, oh, please support me, vote for these people. Then at the end of it, those people went, what just happened? Why
Right.
am I going home? I didn't even have a chance to be a delegate. No, you
Right.
don't, because they use a process that's very manipulated and they're telling other people, this is who you vote for. I don't think the founders ever envisioned that career politicians would be in a situation to do something that benefits themselves and using the same people that are there time and again who are going to be there on their slate. And so the new people, unless they're going to go along with the establishment crowd, they have no chance of becoming a delegate. Really, it's highly unlikely.
It's
And so you
it's
turn
changed.
away all these people who are disgruntled now, who wanted to
Mhm.
be a part of the party, and so you're not growing the party.
Something's happening though in the Republican Party, and it having been at the state convention here in Minnesota on the second day, and as fortune would have it, knowing some of the right people, I was able to get in to the convention and cover it. And there's been an awakening within the grassroots conservative traditionalist part of the party. A lot of people walked away from that convention, excuse the terminology, pissed, because they saw that the old guard was trying to put the fix in, and the old guard lost their mind when it didn't go the way they wanted. And the pressure has been insurmountable in the last couple of weeks, as more and more of classically conservative individuals are stepping up and saying, no, I'm not going to stop fighting. And I will fight this in a primary. And there are certain places where, right now, like for the governorship here in the state of Minnesota, like fighting it in a primary would be absolutely suicidal. Especially when the primary doesn't happen until August. And then that gives you really 2.5 months, ultimately, by the time it's all said and done, to really pour into a campaign. But there are people at the lower levels in Minnesota and other states that are starting to see this now too. They're like, no, we're getting rid of this guy. And if I have to run in a primary against him, we'll beat him. And they're getting support. They're getting a lot of support. And it's coming from a lot of unexpected places. And I think that what they saw in 2016 and then what we saw at the end of the 22 election cycle, the 2020 election cycle, really got a lot of these people involved. And I'm talking to people day after day after day after day after day. They're like, I'm not going anywhere. I might not like the way it's working right now, but I'm not going anywhere because we're taking it back. And they're building coalitions and they're building these connections. They don't have to spend a lot of money. They don't have to. I mean, social media is great for that. I mean, I got a channel on YouTube. People are watching my videos. People are watching the video right now, actually. None of them from Minnesota, apparently. But these kind of things affect, like I said, they affect other states. They affect other regions. And it's catching on. The this is bigger than the Tea Party movement, if you ask me. The Tea Party was big, but they got co-opted. The people that are fighting this fight right now, they're not going to get co-opted. And they will tear down the old guard. I mean, go back to my interview with my conversation with Nate last night, or Nate Miller last Saturday. They're not backing down, and they've got evidence to prove the malfeasance, and they're ready to take over their local parties. That's pretty encouraging to me. So
That's what I was saying when I ran. I was trying to tell people that if you are really a grassroots conservative, that what you have to do is say, it's worth my time and energy to get involved. But not only that, you need to get your family, friends, neighbors, and everyone you know who is actually a conservative and they're not happy with the establishment to take over your local Senate district, or whatever your local political unit is. Go take it over. And that did happen in one Senate district that I am aware of. They did do that. So that's the only way to do it in Minnesota, is to get other conservatives to go and become the board of your Senate district. Become a board member, a chair, co-chair, whatever. And
your county,
yes, and be very involved. Yes,
yeah,
that's the only way. But
because it, like you said, with a lot of the slates and things like that, they make a lot of these decisions ahead of time, and they really kind of force you into this funnel where you have to really do what they want you to do. And people are, like I said, they're waking up to it, and they're going to take it back. And I've already had a couple of people reach out to me and are like, when are you going to start coming back to the county, meetings? And I'm like, And I'm like, why? Well, we're ready to take it over. So let's give it a shot, because that's how you affect change. So when's your hearing again? One more time.
it's June 23rd, I believe. I'll put it on my webpage. I need to update my webpage this week. So yeah, everyone go to ajkern.com. You can see my video that I go to the Minnesota Secretary of State. You can see the video I did that caused Ilhan Omar to respond by changing her birth year. And you can read the civil complaint, the supporting memorandum. I remember when I said I lost my train of thought. I wanted to point out to people it's more than her changing her birth year, but so I'm backing up here. I have to apologize. But the other thing is that if she was 17 and her father, they came here March 8th, 1995, let's just say a 5-year waiting period, then he was eligible March 8th, 2000. So between March 8th to her birthday, October 4th, roughly 7 months, he had to naturalize, apply, go through, waiting for the government to go through their process, and then take the test and take the oath. And how do you naturalize in a 7-month time frame? Right now, the average time to get through the process is 14 and a half to 18 and a half months. Do you really think if she was 17, she was born 1982, giving her, hypothetically saying that she was born 1982, do you really think he could have done it within 7 months? I don't.
Well, and if he
So
did, it was because the fix was in.
that's right. Because our government is corrupt. Our government, it has proven to us beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are betraying us at every level.
No.
And again, I want people to ask if they really want communism, which is leading to globalism. And if you think that all of this is benefiting you personally, then, support it then. But if you still believe in the Constitution and you understand that every word of that document is what protects your God-given rights, and you know that that is a world that you want your children to live in, then you need to pay attention. You need to get active. The churches, in my opinion, are failing. In my opinion, they are failing because, just the abortion issue. But we know that church attendance is declining, and we're moving away from God. And I think that's a huge part of our problem here. So Everyone should
Oh.
vote in the primary. And I will say in Minnesota, you can be Republican or independent, or maybe you're a Democrat who says, I don't embrace Ilhan Omar's Marxist brand of the Democrat Party. Then vote in the primary and vote for, I'm asking for your vote, because we can take her out in the primary. If she's not willing to come forward and say, I'm a citizen, the same with Samuels. If they're not able to say, here's my official naturalization record,
Mhm.
you shouldn't vote for them, because I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to look for help and go to the members of Congress on those committees
Let-
that can actually look at this. And maybe she's going to be taken out later. The Democrats need to make sure she's a citizen. Let's put it that way.
Well, yeah, if they want to save any semblance of respectability, well, never mind. That was stupid. Um,
Yeah.
Is there anything? Is there anything that anybody who's interested in helping you can do? Um, I'm sure you've got court costs and things like that.
Well, I do have a donate button on my page, and yeah, I mean, yeah, it costs money. It's time, energy, and money.
Mhm.
And if we don't have more people stepping up and understanding that it does take all of those to fight this fight, you know, and also more than anything, I am asking for prayers, because I think that we're at such a point that if God doesn't intervene, um, we're done. I mean, America is in decline just because of the Biden-Harris leadership, who are just doing everything they can to bring us to our knees. And now they're talking about our gun rights. And so, if you think that this election, that the issue of citizenship is small, then you're mistaken, because they're going after other parts of our constitutional rights as well. But go to
Absolutely.
ajkern.com. If you can give $20, that's great. Or just talk to other people and tell
Mhm.
people in CD5 that no matter what party you're affiliated with, vote in the Democrat primary, because that's where your vote will count.
Yep. Put a spoil. Be a spoiler. That's just be a spoiler.
Right.
Uh, that would be, yeah. Unless you have a really tight race for a primary in the Republican Party, um, don't they? Yeah, they primary on the same day.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you got a really tight race and you have a conservative challenging a rhino, go support the conservative. But if you don't have a primary challenge, go find out who the weakest Democrat is, or actually not the weakest. Go find who the most conservative Democrat is, and vote for the conservative Democrat over the leftist. Just work as a they do it to us all the time.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
I appreciate your time, and as things go forward, if you'd like to come back on and talk a little bit about it, when you get
Sure.
after your court hearing or whatnot, let's have you back on. Give us an update. Doesn't have to be an hour and a quarter, but uh, we
I
can
would
have you
love
back.
to. I would love
Well,
to.
I appreciate that. Like
I
a lot of
appreciate
people.
what you're doing. We need more people like you. Yes.
Well, thanks. So a lot of people tell me I wish you'd shut up, but
No,
those are
we need more
mostly the
people like you.
rhinos. So,
Yes.
but hey, you've got a Saturday afternoon to try and enjoy, and if you guys can't hear it, and Judson, don't leave. I'm not done yet. I'm just going to kick AJ out. Um, if you can't hear it in the background, I'm running my snowblower. Got to get all the gas out of it before I put it away for the
Yeah.
May 28th, and I'm finally putting my snowblower away because, well, Minnesota. So we
Long winter.
had frost last week, or no, we had frost this week. So I appreciate your time. Good luck with this, and keep
Thank
me
you.
posted, and
Thank
we'll
you so
see if we can
much.
get you back on. And
Thank you for having me on.
well, thanks for making the time. Now go enjoy your Saturday. I'll get you out of here.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you go check out AJ's website. It's ajkern.com. I'm going to try and do I didn't get my Saturday sit rep done last week. Had the conversation with Nate Miller. It took a lot longer just because of the detractor we had on. But I'm going to try and do a Saturday sit rep this week. I'm going to give you guys a heads up. Saturday sit rep, if I get to it this week, is going to be specifically about what happened in Uvalde, Texas, because I feel like it's that important. I know a lot of people want to avoid talking about it. I am not going to talk about the shooter. I am not going to mention his name. I'm not going to mention his motivations. Evil is evil. We all recognize that evil is evil. And I want to talk about when I do it, it'll probably be later in this evening, but I want to talk about America's response to law enforcement's reaction to what happened at Robb Elementary School. And a conversation that I engaged in on my wall with an individual who made a lot of accusations about what I was saying and my motivations and whatnot. And I've offered him the opportunity to come on and defend his position and to embarrass me on my old platform. I've offered that to him at least 7 or 8 times now, and each time I've offered it to him, he kind of poo-pooed the idea of doing it, and even went so far as to say, basically, like, what kind of hack platform do you have anyway? Why would I waste my time on it? And I'm not going to spend all my gas money to drive down there and do it. I'm like, get with the times, dude. I can send you a link and we can just do it right from the comfort of your home. And so I've invited him on. Whether or not he comes on, I'm going to talk about it because I'm actually going to double down on something that I said. I said that all of the officers on scene are complicit and should be charged for failing to act. And I said whether or not they received orders, they had a duty to respond. And I'm going to double down on something if I do the video later, and it's going to probably upset quite a few people, but I feel like it's something that we need to make the link, and I'm okay with that. I had somebody got mad at me on Twitter because I didn't call out the shooter, and I said, hey, look, my platform has always been about holding people in positions of authority, positions of power, public servants accountable for their bad act. I don't need to go out there and talk about this guy. Everybody else is talking about him, and I don't care about him. I hope he's in hell. I want him in the fires of hell. That's what I hope. There. I hope he died and is suffering in hell. That's it. That's all I have to say about him. But I really do want to kind of take a little bit of a TC rant deep dive into what happened there. You guys are talking about your yard work and stuff. Like, I can't do my yard work till tomorrow because I put weed and feed down yesterday and it's got to sit for 48 hours before I can mow. And my yard still looks better than my neighbor's. Anyway, I do want to, like I said, I picked up my first sponsor, if you will, Ardent Sales. I want to show you a little bit of what they got going on here. And for some of you, it's probably not something you're going to use, but others might actually be very interested in what they do because it is cool. Ardent Sales Group offers some really neat stuff. I have a really cool video here. Check that out. this is just kind of the games. They actually have a really interesting training simulator. Close quarters combat right there. Tell me that is not cool, my friends. These are the people that are sponsoring the show right now, helping to make it possible for me to continue what I'm doing. And some of it's really practical, some of it's fun. I don't recommend hunting that way, by the way. But talk about hand-eye coordination for somebody who's trying to learn how to shoot. But yeah, that's Arden Sales, and that's what they do, and they're sponsoring me. So you can find them at Arden Sales Group at ardensales.com. If you happen to be one of those people that likes to golf, they can set golfing up in your home. So if you're in Minnesota and you don't get to play golf in the winter, or Canada, and you don't get to play golf, they can help you play golf year round. So thanks to Arden Sales for doing what they do and being supporters and being conservative grassroots Republicans in a state that does not tend to be friendly towards them. So I met them because of my conversation with Neil Shaw. And I'd also like to remind you guys to go check out my friend Laura Rear, Rocky Mountain Health and Healing. She's now certified and licensed to practice telemedicine in Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana. And I'd like to convince her to try even more, but she's got a lot on her plate. So if you're in one of those states and you're interested in checking out telemedicine, she has a really good head on her shoulder. So go, once again, Rocky Mountain Health and Healing. My friends, I am going to go and see what I can get accomplished with the rest of my day today, and what I can do outside. I can't go do my yard work. And I'm going to get ready to enjoy my evening. I'm going to have my previously scheduled uniform burning party stream on Facebook later this evening as the sun starts to go down. So that'll be a lot of fun. And if you're interested, tune in for my Saturday Sit Rep Special Edition about Uvalde, Texas. As always, live free, pursue your liberties, fight for what's right, and Sic Semper Tyrannis.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are available. All systems are available.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at